Hi, I'm Allie. So when I was in 7th grade, my class went on a field trip to the Fuller Craft Museum. And all week long we had prepared for the trip, but I didn't really understand the nature of it. So it's an art museum, I would ask my friends, or my teacher, or our museum guide. They would all laugh and tell me, no, Allie, it's a craft museum, it's different. No one explained how, though, and I would walk away from the conversation thinking, so it's an art museum. The visit itself didn't clear up my confusion either. There were no handbags or mixing bowls there, nothing I would have defined as a piece of craft. As far as I could tell, the showcased pieces all made a statement. I left the museum more confused than I had arrived. Personally, I would have labeled it an art museum, but surely the artists and curators who worked there knew something I didn't. Throughout my time at Commonwealth, this question about the difference between art and craft kept on popping up. I knew these concepts went beyond museums and paintings. I had heard of the art of war and the craft of fighting, the art of love and the craft of marriage, the art of French cooking and the craft of baking, the art of literature and the craft of writing. It only stood to reason that my own life could be separated out into art and craft. When Susan picked a monologue for me to memorize in freshman year acting, which was it, art or craft? When I made a free throw in basketball, or as happened more often when I watched someone else make a free throw in basketball, was it due to the art of their talent or the craft of their training? I didn't have any clear definitions to go on, and it didn't seem like anyone else did either. When you get home, I would recommend looking up the Wikipedia articles for both art and craft. Their vagueness is pretty funny. My favorite lyrics from one of my favorite songs goes, "Art is why I get up in the morning, but my definition ends there. It doesn't seem fair that I'm living for something I can't even define." Even at Commonwealth, this most intellectual of institutions, the question cannot be answered. A few weeks ago, the Boston Globe film critic Wesley Morris came to speak at Commonwealth, and Ben here asked a very apt question about how he differentiated between a movie that was art and a movie that wasn't. Mr. Morris, while a clear, articulate speaker, stumbled over the question, and I'm afraid his answer didn't leave me very satisfied. I mean, I'm 18. It would be very surprising if I were able to definitively answer this lofty question. The world's greatest minds have been chewing on the issue for centuries. Leo Tolstoy defined art as an expression of the human condition. David Foster Wallace called it an illuminator of the darkest aspects of the world. And Oscar Wilde maintained that art as a concept shouldn't even be defined at all. I spent years thinking about it, though, and I have come up with a rudimentary personal guideline to separating the two. I count as art that which is created independently, and I count as craft that which is created under the instruction or influence of somebody else. For example, in U.S. history last year, the mid-year exam was in standard mid-year form, and we were asked specific questions, and in order to do well, we had to answer them in a predetermined way. That was craft. For the final exam, however, Ms. Bardsley decided to switch it around, and instead of writing a specific Q&A test, she asked us to write an integrated essay on a one-word topic, freedom. That was art. Now, I'd like to ask you all a question. Who here in the audience would prefer a craft-style education for your child? Okay. Who would prefer an art-style education for your child? Okay. The way I see it, there's a spectrum, with art-style education on one end and craft-style education on the other. On the craft-style end, there are trade and vocational schools, schools with a rigidly defined program of study, while on the art-style end, there are home schools and Montessori schools, schools with little to no preordained curriculum. I don't think there's any universal best place for a school to be on the spectrum. Different styles of education work for different students. Some students need a structured program, while others would be stifled by one. I believe Commonwealth has been perfect for me, and hopefully for your son or daughter, because it evenly blends and distributes these two methods of education, this art-style learning and this craft-style learning. That might surprise some of you who hold in your mind an image of Commonwealth as this liberal, free-thinking, artistic place, and it most certainly is that kind of place. Commonwealth's curriculum, though, is far more conservative than its character. I think that makes absolute sense, because while the right-brain subjects require flexibility in the curriculum, room for digression and lingering and speculation, subjects like math and science are really hard to learn at the introductory level when you get artistic with them. Imagine a student boarding class who chooses to do his math homework in base 7 instead of base 10, or one who puts hydrochloric acid in his hat instead of in his test tube. Being impulsive in those subjects is at the very least annoying and at the very most dangerous, and it is only after a student has learned the basics and learned them well that he can begin to eke out his own path within a scientific field. The Commonwealth Math and Science track has taught me an appreciation for a procedure well executed, and the Commonwealth Humanities track has taught me an appreciation for spontaneity. In my very first written English assignment freshman year, Mr. Davis asked my class to describe a room, any room, without explicitly stating what room it was. I didn't really understand the assignment as it was presented. So instead of describing a room, I described a person, a thief to be exact. When I realized I had done the assignment wrong, I expected to be marked down. But instead, in his comments, Mr. Davis made it clear that while he was puzzled by my interpretation of the assignment, he liked my description and the way I had approached it anyway. That, I think, was when I first knew I was where I wanted to be. Commonwealth was a place where I could succeed brilliantly if I did what I was told, but where I could succeed just as brilliantly if I took learning in my own direction. Here at this art show, you'll see both arts and crafts. You'll see results of impressive tutelage, perfectly formed teapots, beautifully developed photographs, drawing of the human form that are exquisite in their accuracy. You'll also see things that are completely spontaneous, abstract, objects that sprung straight from a student's mind into physical realization. What's more, you'll see these two types of objects side by side, made from the same media, in the same classes, by the same students. And I think that says a lot about Commonwealth and the way we approach things here. There's guidance when you need it, and freedom when you don't. And while all you need is a push in the right direction, there's someone there to help you along. And that's what I cherish most about the Commonwealth curriculum. Thank you.